First step, building. And I'm going to talk about buildings a bit later as well, but we'll talk about it just in this thing. Get a building, convert it into a school, and start teaching your own children as a community. In conjunction with that, what I would suggest is there are a couple of alternative education methods. There's a thing called the flipped classroom. No? Not heard of it? Okay, I'm going to presume that you haven't heard of any of this stuff. We'll go from there. The flipped classroom, just looking into it, but what I've seen of it so far, like, it basically goes on the premise of students get a course of things they must study. They study them at home, on the computer or whatever, and when they go to the classroom is more for a discussion about what they've been learning. So you flipped. We can play about with all these ideas that I'm talking about. So if we're not happy with certain parts of it, the whole point is we can adjust it, make it so it's right for each little community, because we've talked about this as well. There's also another thing, where is it? Sudbury schools. Sudbury schools are a thing that started in America, and it's basically a school where the children get a curriculum, and then it's their choice what they learn. They pick and choose. They'll say, I want to learn this, I want to learn that. And they are in control of their own education. As I say, everything I talk about is to start, we've got to do it, and then we've got to pass it on to other people. We can only do these things if we believe in them, and if we can use them for the majority of the children. We can't just open a school without any kind of philosophy behind it. We've got to have a philosophy, and the community schooling is all about it being community, because the education system at the moment is national. All the schools have a national curriculum. I don't always like, as I was saying earlier, about me personally. If I'd have been in a Sudbury school, I might have been an astronaut by now, because I would have been in control of my own education. And I know from a very early age myself, if I'd have had the choice of choosing my own education, I would have been bang. I would have been straight in there. I would have chosen certain subjects which I would be like really interested in. But because most of the national curriculum in England I was not interested in, such as art, never enjoyed it at all. Didn't interest me at all, but I had to do it because it was part of the national curriculum. Well, if I'd have been at a Sudbury school, I would not have even wasted my time in these classes. Same as I would have done a little bit of history, a little bit of geography, but I would not have done as much as I was told by the national curriculum. So, we get a school, we get a building, we create our own school, we then implement these other two ways of doing things. We implement the child chooses what education he wants or she wants, and I think you'll find, because I've heard people say to me, yeah, but you can't trust a child to decide its own education. I think you'll find that from a very early age, we human beings are actually pretty responsible, even as children. And if given the right options, we become more responsible. How can I put this? As I say, if for instance I'd gone to a Sudbury school, I could have been anything now. But because I had to do a national curriculum of education, it didn't work with me.
Did you feel it in that way when you were a child?
Oh yeah. Look, there's a guy called John Harris from Lawful Rebellion in England, and he puts it really succulently. From a very early age, people like me and John knew there was something wrong with the entire system. We just didn't have the brains, the vocabulary to say what it was, so the way we did it was, we was a nuisance. We was getting kicked out of class all the time. It wasn't because we didn't want to learn, it's just we knew there was something wrong, we just couldn't quite put our finger on it. We knew there was something wrong. To force people to do things in a certain way, it's never going to work. Ever. So, I'm going to throw this one as well. What I would like to see is the world run on guidelines. Instead of laws, guidelines. Because with guidelines, you can make them as big as you want, or you can narrow them down for a certain situation that occurs. Whereas if you've got a law, yeah, and what's happening at the moment, as we all know, is there's more. I've said this to the police as well. Oh, good news! The police had a strike today. Did you know?
I told
Police?
Ja, they had a.
Ja, dat weet ik.
They
Ik heb
were
al
on,
overal gereageerd, ze moeten gewoon gaan werken met hun luie donder.
they were on strike today. Excellent. Yeah, so the schooling thing, the education. What I was thinking, as a startup, because we're nowhere near implementing this idea totally, is if we take a building over, started teaching our children, maybe it'd be nice to do it part-time, just until we got to the point where we could do it full-time. Yeah, I'm glad you're nodding there, I was hoping you was going to. Because, as we know, if you don't take your child to school, you can get arrested. Your child can get taken off you. So we have to work within this system until we've got it ourselves. But we can start by just getting the building, taking the child there 1-2 hours a week. I don't care, it's your choice. I'm just giving you these ideas. I haven't got any children, well, I've got one, but he's dead, you know. So I'm not going to enforce or push any of my own personal ideas, because really that's up to the parents of the children. Then we can all become involved. But at the beginning it's got to be more the parents of the children who dictate how these things go. Sorry, didn't mean to say dictate.
You've got one too.
Really didn't mean to say dictate. Who use their own intelligence to decide how the things push forward. So I'd really like to see Occupy start. I've talked about this as well, not in the schooling sense, but I think it's time. I think it was you that said second phase.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to get a building. I don't have to say this to Ada, but we've got a camera there, so there's other people listening. It's time to get a building, guys. Those camps I've been to know what I'm talking about, because I've talked about this today. But it's time to move the game forward a bit more now. Get buildings, and I'll tell you why I think that's such a good idea. I went to Brussels last year, for the 15th of October. I walked from Amsterdam to Brussels. But I say that because I didn't do it because I'm great, I didn't do it because I'm spectacular. I did it because I love travelling, and I knew I'd enjoy it, but also in solidarity with what the Spanish were doing, who walked 10 times the distance I did. Okay? But I just felt that we had to have a representative from Amsterdam. Okay, I know I'm English and I'm saying this about Amsterdam, but that's where I went to be taught how to become an activist. I joined the squatters. Great group of people, hi guys, I hope you're watching some of this. But yeah, they know what they're doing and they knew. So I joined the squatters in Amsterdam and it sort of progressed. But yeah, what happened on the Saturday, the 15th of, the 8th of October, we had our tents up in the park. The police came on because it got dark and said, you can't stay here. You can't have general assemblies here after dark, you can't have meetings, blah, blah, blah. But we offer you this beautiful old university. I swear to God, what a mistake they made. Because there was a little discussion, and I'm sure it's going to go on with the Occupy. Let me tell you this Occupy. We discussed, yeah, but are we going to be out the way? No, because what happened was we had the building, I love this, and we had this huge electrical sign at the beginning of the park saying where we were. Every day there was general assemblies, workshops, there was the info point there every day. So we was in the public eye, plus we had comfort, we had a place where we could sit back, relax when we needed to, when the work needed to be doing, we had somewhere comfortable to do it in. It was just a really bad mistake on their part. I think it worked for us a lot better. So I suggest we do that, as I say, for the phase 2, which is get buildings and start using buildings and start planning things in the buildings. But for the education, the first thing we need to do is to re-educate people. And the only way we're going to do that is by keeping the info point at each camp. If you want to take the tents, fair enough, I'm not going to argue about that anymore. But the info points have to stay. That's all I'll say about that. Yeah. So yeah, education, re-education. Our job is to re-educate, get people going. If we get a building, as I say, we can start with the children part-time, but what I also suggest is what's been going on quite a lot, but I think it's time to start making these things done the same way everywhere, is have re-education for adults, so that we can tell them what we see is going on in the world, and we can inform them of what's happening and how we as individuals can become part of the change. Just like an info point, only it's in a building. And as we've known, this winter was so cold that it would have been really nice if we'd have had a building in the background that we could have used. Because it was really cold, especially sleeping in tents. Yeah, so re-education, education, get buildings, start using different education systems, flipped classroom. I am saying these are the ways that the only ways we can do it. Maybe you've got a brilliant idea for a new education system, bring it forward. Me and Alice were talking today, and we were talking about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And she kept picking out little things. So she then said, you know, I'd love to get together with some people and write in. I said, well, do it yourself. And I suggest if anybody's got any ideas that they think they can do them yourself, put them out there, and let's see where we go from it. Because I'll be honest, I do agree that some of the things in the declaration, which I'm really not that interested in, not that convinced that it's the right way to go, but at the moment it's the only document we've got that actually covers all of these things. Because it says in there, we've got to have an education system that works for everybody, up to a certain age, and then it starts going into money, which don't like money. Yeah, it is no longer enough